Hi, we stand at a threshold. On Monday, the sun glides into Libra and we celebrate the Autumn Equinox, Mabon, here in the Northern Hemisphere. And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the Spring Equinox, also known as Ostara. So at the equinoxes, there is a balance of light and dark. And energetically, it's the best time for us to look at both sides of a dilemma or a problem. Welcome to my channel. I'm Yolanda. I'm an astrologer, a tarot reader, and spiritual coach. And I'm going to talk about Monday, the 22nd of September's Libra Ingress, in which the sun enters Libra, and we welcome a new season. I cover a lot in today's video. I'm going to talk about the first decan of Libra and the tarot card associated with this decan, which is the Two of Swords. And I'm going to share the actual ingress chart with you. So we're going to look at that, and then I'm going to look at each sign's chart so you can see what's coming up for your sun and rising sign this autumn or spring. So this is the Libra Ingress chart, and I am using astro.com here because I wanted to show you the decans and the terms. I still don't know how to look up at the decans or look up the decans and the terms using Astro Gold. So here we can see the sun's ingress into Libra. Here's the sun at 0 degrees Libra, and the first decan of Libra is here. The moon rules the first decan. So what is a decan? Basically, it's just a further division of the sign. So here's Libra, 30 degrees of Libra, and then the sign of Libra is divided into the first 0 to 9 degrees is ruled by the moon. Then the second set of degrees ruled by Saturn, and then the last degrees of Libra is ruled by Jupiter. So we are interested in looking at the card that rules this first decan of Libra, and that card is the Two of Swords. Okay, now this is the Rider-Waite-Smith card, and I also like the Thoth version, which is Aleister Crowley's deck, and Aleister Crowley called this card the Lord of Peace. Now, you know, it's not quite as easy to interpret what this looks like compared to this, so we're going to look at this one more. Right, so the Two of Swords rules this decan, is associated with this decan of Libra. So it's Libra, which is ruled by Venus, and then the moon rules this decan. And the book that I can highly recommend for those who are interested in exploring more about the decans and, well, a decanic journey through the minor arcana of the tarot is T. Susan Chang's book, 36 Secrets. Okay, so what do we know about the Two of Swords? So the Two of Swords is a woman who's blindfolded, sitting on a bench, a stone bench. Some have called it a throne, because there are similarities between just a whole appearance and this bench, you know, to the Justice card. There's similarities with the Justice card, but it's this woman, this blindfolded woman, holding two swords. She's looking pretty relaxed. She's not looking like she's suffering in this position. There's just this meditative quality to her, and also this balanced, you know, holding these two swords in a very relaxed, almost balanced way. She just doesn't look like she is suffering or under duress here. What is important to note here are the other elements in this card. For example, there's the moon, and of course we know that this card is, you know, rules this decan of Libra, which is ruled by the moon. So it's interesting that the moon is there. And then we can see the ocean here in the background. There's water, and then in the distance there are mountains. All of this we have to take into consideration, because all of this comes into play this season of autumn. And of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it will be spring for you. So all of this is going to come into play. Now, what do we know about the Two of Swords? Now, many people consider this card to be a card of stalemate, or like a card that indicates you have to pause and just, wait for things to change, or to basically wait until the tides change, you have more information kind of thing. But there's a lot more to this, and so I want to explore that here, and I want you to, try and focus on what I'm about to say here. So the fact that the moon tells us that what you have to rely on this season is your intuition and your inner knowing, okay? Because again, she's blindfolded. You can't rely on what you are seeing. You can't rely on the so-called obvious, because what is obvious to you is not obvious to others. Remember that going forward. And so it's more about trusting your gut, and also being willing to go deeper into things, exploring the depths of matters, really hidden things, like really getting into things that you did not consider before, if that makes sense, and just diving deeper. Explore the hidden realms. Now, there's a lot of things in the Ingress chart that actually point to this. Now, before we go into that, before I talk about the Ingress chart, let's also consider that Aleister Crowley's Lord of Peace card, Peace. He says that this is a card where you aim for peace of mind. So it is definitely a card of where you have to aim at attaining balance, equilibrium between mind, body, right? Mind, body, soul, just try and attain some sort of equilibrium and balance. But your primary aim is always peace of mind. So what is going to bring you peace of mind? Now, many things can bring you peace of mind, but the thing that is most likely to help you this season is meditation, contemplation, reflection, like this card. Okay, so let's dive into the Libra Ingress chart. And so an Ingress chart is usually cast by mundane astrologers who want to look at what's coming up on the world stage, what world events are going to occur over the next 3 months kind of thing. And I'm not a mundane astrologer. I am an archetypal and humanistic astrologer, so I prefer looking at Ingress charts with a focus on like the individual. What do we as individuals need to know about the energy over the next season, during that season, right? And how can we work with that energy? And the reason I want to do this is because we individuals are the collective. What happens on an individual level impacts the collective. Okay, so now let's look at this. We see that the sun is, of course, 0 degrees Libra, in the decan of the moon, and in the term of Saturn. Now, this is quite important or worth noting because Saturn is exalted in Libra. So while the sun is traveling through this term of Saturn and in the decan of the moon, we are going to really benefit from Saturnian things, like being orderly and being and knowing our limitations, maintaining our boundaries or creating boundaries, knowing our limitations, working within our limitations. But it's also interesting to reflect on how Libra is ruled by Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of money and values and how we attract things. And yet Saturn is exalted in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And so I don't know, every time that autumn comes around, the fall season comes around, I just love fall. I love the season. I love autumn. It's beautiful. And so it's incredible to me how that ties in, the fact that Saturn is endings and death and decay, and there's beauty in that. The season shows that, you know, the falling leaves, the changing colors, the smells of decay, which are actually, you know, in the forest. I live here in the forest. They're just sweeter, and everything is just more beautiful. I love the season of fall, so I don't know if you're experiencing that as well. And that is very much a manifestation of this, you know, exalted Saturn in Venus ruled Libra. So all of those themes come up, all those things come up at this time of seeing the beauty in what has ended or what is coming to an end, or realizing that you can value, that there is value to your experiences, to what has come to an end. You must appreciate what has now gone. So there's going to be that element of things parting, moving away, going, and it ties up with everything right now. There's this, like, I'm doing this recording on Thursday, September 18th. This Sunday there's the solar eclipse, and it's an intense solar eclipse. I've got a video on that solar eclipse. I will link to it below in the comments. Check that out. And this is very much a solar eclipse that demands us. It doesn't ask. It doesn't. There's nothing easy or generous about the solar eclipse on Sunday. It demands that we let go of things, we release things, we move on, we cut ties with certain things. And so it's interesting that when this Libra energy comes into play on the 22nd, on Monday, there's still that reminder to celebrate these endings, to move on from these endings, to say, you know what, this has come to an end. I'm grateful for it. I learned things. I am now ready to move forward and experience something new with gratitude for what has been, if all of that makes sense. Now we have to look at Venus. Venus rules Libra, and Venus is in Virgo now, in detriment in Virgo. She's not very strong in Virgo. She's not powerful there. But she's still doing what Venus does. She's still attracting. She's attracting, though, in a Virgo manner. Okay, so if you want to attract more money, if you want to attract more abundance at this time, you have to be meticulous. You have to be careful. You have to be Virgoan, right? You have to analyze your spending, follow a budget, all of those good Virgoan things, Mercury things. Mercury in Virgo is very analytical, very precise, very methodical. If you apply those things, if you work that way, then you will experience more abundance. Mercury is in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So there's co-reception here. Wonderful. It means that, you know, Mercury here is asking us to think along those lines of, being more diplomatic, applying charm as much as possible, aiming for balanced thinking, trying to balance our thoughts, not to go to the extreme of anything. And then the moon is also in Libra at 10 degrees here, and interestingly enough, the moon is conjunct the fixed star Diadem. So the moon conjunct Diadem there, which is the fixed star associated with, it's a very Venusian star. It's associated with personal charm and being devoted to a cause, tells us that during the next 3 months, we're probably going to be devoted to some sort of cause, possibly our own cause, our own progress, achieving some goal, but, hopefully a bigger cause. And the need to be personally charming, to be diplomatic, because this star is it's a very Venusian star. The story behind Diadem is that Berenice, who was an Egyptian queen, offered her hair to Venus, the goddess of love, if her husband returned safely from a war. Her husband was Ptolemy III, I think. And then her husband did return safely, and Berenice then gave her hair to the goddess, and her hair was put up in the constellations in the sky. The reason this particular fixed star came up for me is because Berenice III, in actuality, this is a fact, had, during her reign, as a queen of Egypt, had coins, coined for her, with her face in the front, and at the back of the coin was a cornucopia of fruit, one cornucopia, and cornucopias are associated with abundance and fortune. And there's this thread throughout this ingress chart, which I will cover more when we go into your sign charts, what's coming up for you for each sign, where we can see this thread of abundance and this potential to win money or to attract great good fortune is quite strong over the next 3 months. Now, the big news, I think, for me is Mars entering Scorpio. Mars enters Scorpio the same day, and yay, I personally am extremely happy about this. Very excited, because it's been a very frustrating eclipse season for many reasons. I'm sure you probably experienced your own frustrations. It's been exhausting. It's been quite something, because Mars is not happy in Venus ruled Libra. It doesn't function well there, and now he's going to go into Scorpio, which he rules Scorpio. In Scorpio, the qualities, all the Martian willpower, drive, ambition, focus is intensified. So you're going to have this power to get things going. Now, if you are a Scorpio rising and a Scorpio sun, this is extremely good news for you. But anyone really, all of us are going to benefit from a Mars in Scorpio. But in particular, the water signs are going to have this drive. They're going to get going on things. Water signs and the earth signs in particular. So also worth noting, I'm just going to touch a bit on the mundane level here, on the collective side. Mars in Scorpio does unfortunately mean an increase in war or strategic moves, and especially secretive moves where things are done, secretly behind closed doors, but then it impacts us collectively. So expect, unfortunately, unpleasant surprises, surprise attacks, that kind of thing, definitely going to be on the increase over the next 3 weeks. Okay, now moving along. The most striking thing about this chart, of course, is the grand air trine, which is the Sun in, Libra, trine Pluto in Aquarius, trine Uranus in Gemini, and Uranus retrograde is conjunct Sedna retrograde. Now, Sedna is a dwarf planet. I don't usually focus on a lot of asteroids and dwarf planets and centaurs and that, but Sedna is definitely one I pay attention to. Sedna is a planet connected to many things, but the most important thing, and the thing that really leaps out at me in this chart, and if you want to learn more about Sedna, I do recommend Alan Clay's work. But anyway, Sedna is the dwarf planet associated with nature, for sure, our link to nature, our connection to nature, because Sedna is named after the Inuit goddess of the sea. But if you know the story of Sedna, the mythology of Sedna, you will know that Sedna was, killed, murdered by her father, but in a terrible way, where her father cut off her fingers when she was clinging to a canoe while they were trying to escape from this terrible storm. He was scared that he was going to drown. There was too much weight in the canoe, right? The two of them in a canoe, and he thought, if he threw her overboard, if he threw his own daughter overboard, he would survive, he would live. And that's what he did. But she was clinging to this canoe, and she didn't want to let go, of course, and clinging to this canoe, and her father cut off her fingers. And as each finger dropped into the sea, they turned into these sea creatures, whales and walruses and seals. And so Sedna is, by the way, still to this day, very much a worshipped, revered goddess. And everyone who goes out into the ocean will do well if they actually call on her for safe passage. But anyway, Sedna, this clinging to the canoe, that clinging aspect of this myth is what we have to focus on here, because Gemini, ruled by Mercury, is a sign associated with our thinking processes, the way we think, our mind. And so what's coming up in this Libra Ingress chart is, what are we clinging to? What thoughts are we clinging to that are unhelpful? What are we not willing to let go and must let go of? What must we release in order to experience this shift in consciousness, which is really what this Libra Ingress chart is all about. It's a shift in consciousness, an awakening of consciousness. Honestly, I feel like, because Uranus is at play here, I honestly feel like so many people next week are going to experience this like switching on. Like from one minute they're asleep, they don't know, they're just operating, like default system, default mode, they're asleep, they just, cruising through life. And next thing you know, a switch is turned on and they're awake. And they suddenly become aware of what actually reality is. Let me know. Leave me a comment if you've already started feeling like you are awakening to some deeper truths. It makes me think as well of like quantum thinking. More of us think taking this leap beyond our default system, and we become aware of more there's more different opinions, different perspectives that we can start considering, and we're more open to this. Where we weren't so open before, we are now willing to take on different perspectives and realize that there are so many ways to look at truth. Again, leave me a comment if any of this is kind of making sense to you right now. If you're feeling this shift, it's a shift in consciousness. Okay. Right, so that's what I wanted to touch on here. Now let's go and do your charts for each sign. Right, so this is the chart for Aries, Sun and Rising. Now we can see that you have, Libra is your 7th house, and you've got the 3 planets there. You've got the Sun, of course, Libra, Mercury, and the Moon in Libra in the 7th house. So this tells me that your focus is going to be on your partnerships, your marriage. And Venus is in your 6th house. So you might consider starting a new job, or like creating a new company or a business with your partner, your life partner, or you could actually get into a business partnership with someone at this time. Certainly you are thinking of changing your career or your job, or you're looking for work, and your partner is coming into this, is factoring into this whole decision. Okay. Mars in Scorpio tells me in your 8th house that you are thinking of or possibly dealing with tax issues, inheritances, sorting out your debts, and your focus is, that's where your drive's going to be. So if you're looking for work, it's possibly because it's related to you owing money in some way. So you are focused in, clearing up your debts, becoming debt free, and you're going to have the energy to do this, right? Okay, let's look at Taurus. Right, Taurus Sun and Taurus Rising. So we've got Libra. Libra is your 6th house, and we have, of course, Mercury there and the Moon there, telling us that basically your emotions are tied up. Your thinking, your emotions are all tied up with what's happening in the workplace, what's going on at work, but also with pets. So your pets may be on your mind a lot. You may be emotional at this time concerning a pet, maybe thinking about a pet, or you may be getting a pet soon because, here's Mars in the 7th house. You may be getting a new pet at this time as well, because, of course, Libra Ingress, the equinox is new energy, new beginnings. You may consider getting a new pet at this time, and that would be a good idea. Certainly Mars is motivating you there. And then, of course, Venus ruling this this ingress is in your 5th house of creativity and children. Your children will be, children, but also again, going back to this pets, you might have fur babies, and certainly your fur babies or your children are where you're going to find pleasure and joy this coming season, right? Because we're dealing here with season, with the autumn, and over the coming 3 months, you may be again getting this pet or having more fun times, fun experiences with your children, or with this like I say, a pet. Your creativity as well, expressing yourself creatively will bring you a lot of joy at this time as well. Okay, so that was Taurus. Let's move on to Gemini. So Gemini, you have, Libra is your 5th house. So your focus, your mind, and your mind, your emotions are going to be tied in very much with your time that you spend with your children, how you spend your time creatively, your creative projects. Your Mercury, your thinking is going to be also just revolving around that, creative projects. But your children might be a lot on your mind at this time. And then Mars there in your 6th house is going to give you drive to find work or to accomplish a lot of work. But the 6th house is also about pets, so this is another sign, I said the same thing to Taurus, where you're possibly going to consider getting a pet, or a pet may come into your life at this time. Now Jupiter in your 2nd house is wonderful for income coming in here. So if you are looking for work, you'll get lucky for sure this season, because we are looking at the season of autumn if you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. So if you are a Sun Gemini or ascendant Gemini, you are for sure going to get a job over the next 3 months for sure. If you're looking, possibly even get a new pet, or you're considering getting a pet. What else can we see here? We've got Fortuna at, this is Fortuna. I was speaking about Abundantia earlier. So this is Fortuna at 26 degrees in Leo. Your luck will come from chatting with your siblings and neighbors. So if you're looking for work, for example, you might want to reach out to your neighbors or immediate community. Like the people that you know, and also your immediate community. You don't have to go search very far to find work. Okay? Cancer rising. So if you're a Cancer rising or Cancer sun, Virgo is of course your 3rd house, Libra is of course your 4th house. And again, your thoughts this over the coming season are going to be revolving around home, what's going on around the home, your family, possibly things to do with your father, your issues to do with your father might rise up, or your father may come live with you, for example, or let's look at anything to do with father might come up as well over the next 3 months. But yes, your thoughts are definitely focused on the home and family, and the moon is where your emotions are going to be tied up over the next 3 months. Venus is then in your 3rd, which means that you can expect to definitely hear a lot from your siblings. If you have a sister in particular, she's going to be very much involved in your life and is somehow connected to this whole issue of home and family. So it could be something to do with inherited property or ancestral property. That kind of thing will come up as well if you are dealing with ancestral property or property that belongs, in the family or to the family. Mars in your 5th house is giving you all the energy, drive that you need to accomplish your creative goals, and also give you, if you are wanting to fall pregnant, for example, this is a good time to do it over the next 3 months with Mars going through the house of children. And you've got Fortuna in your 2nd house, so you will, money is coming in, or you experience fortune from dealings with, the home, to do with the home. So money towards maybe renovations, fixing up the home is coming in. That's where you're going to get a dose of luck there. Okay, let's see if I can see anything else that's standing out here. For sure, with with Uranus in the 12th house for you here in Gemini, also said, no, you have to continue shifting your mind. A lot of work to do in releasing thought patterns that no longer serve you, shifting towards the new reality. You must be willing to embrace new perspectives, new way of thinking. Okay, next sign, Leo. So Leo rising, Leo sun. You have, of course, Libra is your 3rd house. You're going to find that over the next 3 months you are going to be very involved with your siblings, and there's just going to be a lot of possibly many short trips. First of all, a lot of communicating with your neighbors, with your immediate community. Your feelings as well are tied up with your siblings, your neighbors, your immediate community. There's just a lot of activity there, possibly meeting up with neighbors for drinks or potlucks or something like that. But your siblings, brother, sister, there's going to be a lot of visiting there, and possibly a younger sibling that is going to take the focus over the next 3 months. And then with Venus in your 2nd house tells me that there's money coming in, possibly to do with a sibling, or you're going to help a sibling financially, or a sibling and you might consider some sort of income generating project. But the fact that Mars has moved into the 4th house, I wouldn't be surprised if you sell property, or if you're considering selling property over the next 3 months. And I like that the fact that Abundantia there is, you're going to possibly get quite lucky in selling your property. Okay. Next sign, Virgo rising and Virgo sun. We have Libra as your 2nd house, of course, and that means that your focus, your mind, your thinking, your feelings are all tied up with income, how much money is coming in, how much you're earning, your earnings. But also, this is an important thing to focus on when we're dealing with the 2nd house. It's not just about money, it's also about self-worth, and how what you are doing, what you're contributing to the world, what you're putting out there, how is it adding to your worth? Is it making you feel better, or is it making you feel worse? What is the payoff there? Basically, that's all what the 2nd house is about. What are the payoffs right now? And if you're not getting what you need, this is something you have to consider over the next 3 months, because that's highlighted for you over this season. The 3rd house with Scorpio, with Mars in Scorpio in the 3rd house, tells me that the way that you are going to, where your motivation comes is from this authentic communication, just being more of yourself, communicating yourself quite passionate about whatever you're putting out there. But also you're driven to, you have motivated to have more dealings with your community, with your siblings. However, just remember that you are, Mars is quite short and not verbose, and so there's this, it's like this short communications with others at this time. It's not like you're writing long posts or blogging. That's not how you're going to feel motivated over the next 3 weeks, for example. You're going to want to have these short communications. You want to get to the point with people, especially with your siblings, especially with your immediate community, with your neighbors. All right, and then Venus in your 1st house is telling me that somehow you're going to shift your sense of identity